This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a very crisp winter morning here in the African wilderness. We're all out and about and hoping to find you some interesting sights today on this live safari. In a private game reserve. My name is Jared and we've got Marcel behind the camera today. We're having a wonderful morning. Just a reminder that the first 45 minutes is all about the kiddies. So kids, do please send out your questions. Email them to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. I do believe the weekend is potentially bringing along a cold front, so we better enjoy the slot. So their plan for this morning is to look for 2 different sets to cubs. So this area where we're in at the moment, we do expect that that female cheetah and her 2 cubs that we saw with Clive a couple of days ago is around here. Area pics of a lioness and 5 cubs, so of about 3 months old. So we're hoping for a morning of lots of little babies, everyone. So let's hope that works out for us. I'm very excited. I hope you're all excited. But for now, I think I'm going to carry on. I'm going to head straight to that open area that I was mentioning to you, and I'm hoping to see if I can find this cheetah.
Good morning and welcome to Juma Private Game Reserve here in the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. We are doing safari in reverse this morning, because why not? My name is James Hendry. David is on camera.
Hello.
It's pretty chilly today, but not freezing. We've stopped over here because there are some francolins alarm calling at something. There are also some magpie shrikes alarm calling at something. And we don't know what they're shouting at. It might be a leopard, it might be an owl, it might just be general dissatisfaction with this existence. Now remember, for the first 45 minutes of the drive, our questions are dedicated to those younger than 18, and as I like to say, those pretending to be younger than 18. You can send us your questions and comments to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv, kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Now we are looking into the bushes here, just trying to see if there isn't something spotted, perhaps. I can see the francolin, David. It's on the edge there. You're on him. Quite a few of them. A covey of francolins, or spurfowls in this case. Natal spurfowls. It's a very good idea just to have a sit and a listen and a look. So I don't see anything that might be causing the consternation in these spurfowls. Lovely sound of the hornbills there. Yes, Megan, they do. They're very well camouflaged. All of the ground birds have Very good camouflage, for without it, they would surely be devoured much more frequently than they are. No, maybe it was a snake. Maybe it was a bird of prey flying overhead. I don't know. I think let us continue. Our plan is to go towards the east of the reserve today. We're doing that because there were tracks of a leopardess called Thandi in that area yesterday. No luck with her, but we'll see if we can find her this morning. No doubt the wilderness will give us something if it doesn't give us a leopard. It's given us a pretty miserable weather so far. Clouds, which means it's not so cold, but I don't think it's going to warm up much today as this cold front moves over the lowveld of South Africa.
Good morning, good morning. Welcome to a very overcast, cloudy, but not so chilly Djuma Game Reserve. It's only 12 degrees Celsius and 54 degrees Fahrenheit. So it has been colder throughout the winter. My name is Lauren and I do have BK on camera this morning. And we are out looking at the ground because we heard lions calling last night, hoping that they would come this way. And when I was in my bedroom, I also heard a leopard sawing. So someone was on territorial patrol last night. But the only thing is, oh, BK, look at that. Can you get it from this angle? Shall I reverse for you? The sun is starting to come up. My favorite time in the morning. So yes, I don't see any tracks for anybody so far. No lion tracks, no leopard tracks. So what that means is no one walked this road. So I have to keep driving around and try to pick up signs of anybody moving. But my main aim of the drive today is find my favourite hyenas. Let's just take a moment to admire the sunrise. Many of you are saying this is absolutely gorgeous. And you're right. There's a lot of purple in the sky today. Purple, lilac, mauve, lavender. I can't think of any more descriptive purple words, but you can see it.
Good morning, everyone. This is MCCURDY Mobile.
Brody, you're 7 years old and you're asking, what is my favourite thing about being in South Africa? Oh, now that is a tough question, Brody. There are so many things. But I think the fact that I'm allowed to be out here is my favourite thing. I'm not very good at being in the cities. I'm not a city girl. Everybody's different though. And I like being in big open spaces. I love falling asleep and listening to the animals. Leopards sawing, lions roaring, hyenas whooping. I don't really like the buzz of mosquitoes, but Everything else I do enjoy. And just the fact that I get to sit out here with the animals and share it all with you is pretty special. We're in a world that's highly digital. Phones, iPads, apps, computers. We're able to connect with one another from all around the world, and I think that's really special. I can talk to you from this driver's seat, and you could be in any country, from Russia, Antarctica, South America. Doesn't matter where you are, you can join me on this safari. Look at this. Hopefully the sun's got his hat on today. It'll warm us up. When I was young, Brody, we didn't have phones, mobile phones, or the internet, actually. I remember when the internet first arrived, everybody was baffled. Can you believe that? Yes, that's how old I am. I know not everybody gets to see the sunrise or the sunset, so this is why we show it to you. Get to watch it with us. And I say this a lot, but there's really nothing that compares to an African sunrise. I didn't get the name, but some of you are commenting. It's amazing how fast the sun comes up, isn't it? You've got to be there at the right time to catch it. Same with the sunset. It's always so much faster than you think. And then it's gone and you're plunged into darkness. Before the concept of time was made, it's man-made. Time is completely man-made. It's different in different countries. In Ethiopia, the calendar is 7 years behind ours. So that means when I visit Ethiopia, I'm actually 7 years younger. Isn't that great? Get to be 7 years younger. I love it. But time is different throughout the world. Not everybody follows the same sort of Western time that we do. And there's some cultures that just go by the sunrise and the sunset. And that's how they gauge their days. Not all clocks have 60-second minutes. Mankind created time. Lisa, you're saying, wow, yes, I'm actually reading a fantastic book about time. It's a completely man-made thing. We created time. Somebody, somewhere, decided that we're going to have 60 seconds in a minute. And that's how we would operate our days, 24 hours in a day. But it's not like that throughout the world. And Ethiopia have their completely own calendar that runs very, very different from ours. They have their own time. So when you land in Ethiopia, it's bizarre to try and get used to their time because it's unfamiliar. But the fact that you get to be 7 years younger is just ideal to me. Your wrinkles disappear and all of a sudden you're youthful again. No, Lisa, I'm only joking. That's not quite the same. My wrinkles are still here, but it is 7 years behind their calendar. It's really, really interesting, the history of time. If any of you are looking for something to read up on, I suggest you try it. Now the sun is disappearing behind a blanket of clouds. Hopefully it will burn through. I'm not sure I want a cloudy day today. Okay, BK and I are going to bumble west and see if we can pick up on any tracks for now.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to And Beyond Ngalo with me, ROAN, and Odie behind the camera. So we have decided to come into the south. Yesterday morning, late in the morning, Yapi and Nikki found the Birmingham Pride here, and then yesterday afternoon when Barney came back, they moved off. So what we have decided to do is come here, check if maybe they went back to that same watering hole or they moved further northeast. So we are going to go check the watering hole first and then take the next road that takes us northeast into the reserve, hoping that maybe we catch them on the move or we just see their tracks and then we know exactly where to go. Quite a dramatic sunrise, absolutely gorgeous though, very, very pretty, nice, quite a mild morning, not too cold, not too chilly, nothing like yesterday morning. Yesterday was just, we were frozen, but every now and then you can feel a bit of a drizzle, strangely enough, like these are rain clouds. Must say, a layer of clouds like this traps in a nice bit of heat. Whew. So just up ahead, probably another, I don't know, about 400 meters or so, we'd get to the water. Leo from Dubai, who's only 3 years old, has asked, do animals get cold at night? So Leo, you know, they're quite adapted to living out here. So with the Birmingham Pride, I'll use this as an example. They've got 2 little cubs with them, and I can imagine they get cold at night. But what they'll do is they'll actually snuggle up with their mom, and this will keep them warm. Let's use this Impala as an example, Odie. So you can actually see on this male Impala, the back of, well, his back, the ridge looks a little bit rough, you know, darker color. What it's called, it's piloerection, where the hair stands up. It actually traps a layer of heat between the tip of the hair and the body. It's like, Leo, if you've ever had goosebumps, basically the same thing that happens to you. So, you know, they're quite adapted to keeping themselves warm. You can see a little bachelor herd of Impala all year. You can see on all of them, the backs are a little bit darker. So the colder it is, the more the hair stands up. And then as it warms up during the day, the backs are going to actually look smoother and a little bit lighter. It's like rubbing a carpet the wrong way, then it looks rough, and then the other way, it will look smooth. So let's carry on to this watering hole, see if there's anything here. Fingers crossed the Birmingham Prize here. If not, I'm pretty sure we would be able to track them down. How's that for a dramatic sunset of sunrise? Oh, it's pretty, eh?
Everybody, good morning and welcome to Pridelands, where we are watching an elephant as he feeds. However, I am very distracted this morning because I can hear a whole bunch of elephants trumpeting in the distance, and I want to go and find out why they are so angry. My name is TAYLA MCCURDY, and on camera with me is Gat, and it's been raining and it's cloudy and it's been miserable. So I'm drinking tea this morning in my lovely little takeaway flask. Thank you, Emma. But we'll watch this elephant for about 30 seconds longer before I race on off to the big open plains, where we left the herd of elephants we spent most of the afternoon with yesterday. And it sounds like they are very, very upset. And I don't know why they would be upset, but I'd like to go and find out. Hey, big boy. He's on a go slow today. He's really just taking it easy, feeding on all of the sicklebush. Thank you, big boy. You can pull them all down. We're not a huge fan of sicklebush because it is an encroaching species and it takes over a lot of these open areas and it pollutes the soil, and it doesn't allow for much grass and other trees to sort of to grow around it. So, elephant, you can pull the whole thing down, and then I will come and collect that later and we can use it for brush packing. So we rehabilitate any off-roading tracks that we make into sightings, and sicklebush is the best plant to use. That's because of all the spines that they have on it. It's a bit of a deterrent for animals to walk over and through it, so it gives the ground enough time to recover from the off-roading that we have done. Off-roading is not great, so we try and do it sparingly. Unlike the elephants just go where they like, and they make a very nice little pathway through the bush that lots of other animals will use. So I think the impala and zebra and animals like that are very thankful for elephants and hippos. They make the greatest pathways off of the roads that we have already created. So thank you, elephant. That can't be too tasty, that breakfast of just bark. He's just eating the bark today. On the stems, some crunchy bits. There we go. You can hear the trumpeting in the distance. Okay, we're going, Hat. We have to go. There's been too much trumpeting for too long. I cannot resist the urging to not go and find out what is happening. It will take us a little bit of time to get there. Maybe not too long. Okay, we're going to race as fast as we can down this road, which is not very quickly. Head on back towards the west, and while we do that, I'm going to send you back across to the east, where James is sitting, driving around.
We have got here a Varro's eagle owl, and it has stolen the nest of an African hawk eagle. Now, whether it's just sitting in there because it wishes to have a snooze, or whether it has actually hijacked the nest from the eagle owls, at least from the hawk eagles, I'm not sure. It was sitting with its head hopped out for some time, and there were birds screaming at it. You can still hear the grey go-away birds going quack, quack at it, but we had a whole lot of other birds as well, some starlings, some drongos, a grey-headed bush shrike, and even a few helmet shrikes were shouting at him. But now all seems to have calmed down as he's popped his head below the parapet, as it were. So this is the biggest owl species that we get here, by some margin. Unfortunately, he no longer wishes to be seen. I'll just say the name again, a Varro's eagle owl. Varro was one of these European naturalists who popped out here sometime during the 18th century, I think, at least 19th century. He used to be called a giant eagle owl, which, in my opinion, was a much better name, but ornithologists around the world seem to make life as miserable as possible by renaming birds names that don't really fit. See the grey go-away bird now coming a bit closer to have a look. Yes, Michelle, it is a huge nest, and it's not a nest that was built in a day, as it were, a little bit like Rome. It took a while to build, and the African hawk eagles use it year after year. So I suspect that this is a temporary refuge for the eagle owl, and I also think that the two African hawk eagles would very easily chase off one Varro's eagle owl. They're roughly the same length, maybe not quite as heavy, but they're designed and a little bit more agile for fighting. Well, there's a fascinating sighting now of a pile of sticks in a tree. Great stuff. Excellent. Well, we'll move on from our pile of sticks in a tree. We're nearly at the eastern boundary. We did find some tracks of a leptis going this way, probably from yesterday, but good signs.
It worked out for us. We did come to the watering hole and boom, voila, here's the Birmingham Pride. You can see there's one of the cubs checking Dad out. Oh, he's jumping on Dad. That's brave. Look at that. Bite his tail. So that's the one Ross male. The other Ross male is right in front of him. So we've got the entire Birmingham Pride here, except for the young male. Both the cubs are here, and then this one walking up now towards the white lioness that's playing with the cub. Odie, if you can zoom in on that, that's quite cute. It looks like she's got a new injury to her eye. Oh. Wow, that doesn't look too great. What could have happened is they probably fought over a carcass and someone could have swatted her in her eye. As you can see, it looks quite sore and pinkish. Ooh. Now, I think there is an eye. I think it's just the pink swollen over it. That's what it looks like. We'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. So, of course, I think a lot of you are now asking the question if we're going to get a vet in and we're going to euthanize. Well, we're going to help this lion, and of course we cannot do that because it's a natural occurrence. It's nothing that we did to her as humans. It's what the pride did to her. So we let nature take its course. This little cubby going to investigate her, and then the white lioness sneaking up on the cub, always wanting to play. It's actually amazing to see how much these cubs have grown already. Oh, you can actually hear her. Just moaning. So how they get right in there just to play with the other youngsters. Amazing to see. That little male, I think he's the one approaching now, coming to help his sister. Looks like the hair is growing back on his tail. So that's going well. So much activity going on here. So if I look through the binoculars at that eye, it does look like the eye is still there. It's just, I think it might just be swollen over it. I don't think the eye's missing at all. So the reason why they're all moving now is some of the females are starting to walk away. Bia and Navina wants to know, what do the lions eat for breakfast? Bia and Navina, they don't really have three meals a day like humans do. You can now see the entire pride is getting up and following one of the older lionesses. It's quite nice to see. Of course, here comes the mom. This is the one closest to us, the mom of the two cubs. She's got a few new scars on her. So Bia and Navina, you know, it's not like they have breakfast. Oopsie. They're playing a little bit too hard. I just had to stop to hear that sound. Quite a cute sound as the little cubby's trying to defend itself against the bigger ones, as they are trying to play with it. Oh, I think these cubs are going to grow up to be so tough. So Bia and Navina, yeah, like I was saying, there's no, breakfast, lunch and dinner every day. So it could be now that they are walking up north, east, into the sun. If they come across maybe a wildebeest or a giraffe or zebra or something, they might try hunt it, but they might be unsuccessful, which means they miss breakfast. And then they'll try again tonight for dinner, per se. So there's no breakfast meal or lunch meal or dinner meal it's just, food is going to be there. They'll have a meal whenever they are able to catch it. I think what we're going to do is actually drive around a little bit and try head them off. They haven't gone too far. I can still see one of the females just lying down, and then that, of course, is the grumpy Ross male, which I'm pretty sure he'll get up soon and follow the pride. But I think what we should do is drive around to that side and see if they come out on there. One of the lionesses is actually just lying down on a termite mound, so she didn't go too far at all. Yes, but good timing. All right, let's go in here. It's quite a nice open path. Nice for us that they were out in the open like that when we just came around the corner. As you can see here, we've got one of the lionesses just lying down. And then the rest should come out here.
What a surprise, we found more elephants. I don't know if these are the ones that were trumpeting, because the big bulls are just happily feeding. But what we did see just a moment ago was a small group, almost like a satellite party from the breeding herd, but it'd be very hard to see them. They're just rushing through the bushes at the moment. You can just see the sort of grey shapes moving behind all those trees. They're the ones that are very upset, and there was a go-away bird that was alarming. Whew. So I don't really know, but we're going to have a look here because we're coming close up to Marula Lane, and we know how busy that road is here on Pridelands. It's where all the action happens all the time. So there they go. You can see that even their heads were slightly raised. Maybe you saw that, but that's okay. Like I said, we're still with the big bachelor group of elephants that we saw yesterday. You can see a whole bunch of youngsters just feeding in there. And then if we go over to the left, sorry, Gat, I'm making him do lots of twisting this morning, so early. We've got our favourite elephant bull on the left, Mr. Kumo, coming out. So they all did the same big loop yesterday. They walked up to the open plains, fed along the drainage line, and are now going back towards Leopard Dam, where I'm sure that they will have a drink a little bit later in the morning. But it's all very calm with these boys. They have not been upset by anything by the looks of it. You can still hear the go-away bird alarming to the right of us. Anna Marie, I think you're quite right. Pridelands is indeed a elephant wonderland. I think there's not been one day where we haven't showed you elephants. There is always 1 or 2 or 3 herds, and if we can't find the big families of elephants, there's definitely a bull lingering around. I think it's just because there's so much nice vegetation to eat that hasn't been eaten for years and years, because remember, this property was fenced off from the other reserves, and only the last 3 years were the fences dropped to open up onto the greater Kruger East ecosystem. And also we've got 2 permanent water holes here. Well, they don't get pumped or anything like that. They fill up on their own, but they tend to hold water for a long time. I think what we might see as we move later on into the year, and as the water does start to dry up and it becomes a little bit unfavorable, remember elephants do like to drink the cleanest of water, I think that the elephants will move further east to the Motlobetsi River system that's just in Kwenga. It's not too far away from here, but it's a nice big sandy river, and I think that the elephants will do a lot of drinking of water from that area. When I have gone to explore that side, fortunately we don't have signal in a lot of the places, I did see some big diggings where elephants have dug wells into the sand, probably from the previous years. I don't think the river flows very much. I don't know if it has flown for years. Maybe if there's an exceptional amount of rain, it will flow for a couple of days or a week. But you can see all the bulls just moving around now. Lucretia, who's just 5 years old, do you want to know what elephants like to eat? Elephants have to eat lots of different things. So at this time of the year, Lucretia, they're mainly going to be eating lots of bark off of the trees. They like to eat roots, and they'll dig for bulbs. The grass is not very tasty at the moment, but they're still eating some of it. And then they're also feeding on the leaves on some of the trees. But they'll eat fruit when it's around. So they eat all vegetable matter. So they like to just eat plants, but they need to eat lots of it. And an elephant must eat 5% of its body weight every single day. And in winter, I think it's very difficult for elephants to be able to get all the nutrients that they need. So sometimes what we do see is that they can get a little bit thin. But I don't think that will happen this year. But when we had some really bad droughts in 2015, 16, and 17, sure, it was very sad because there was nothing left. There was no grass very early in the year. There was no water around. The trees had lost all their leaves. It was very tough for all of the animals. But luckily for elephants is that they can move long distances in order to try and find food. They are very good at walking.
We have got here a kudu. And this kudu is, well, just taking a gentle morning stroll. There are, in fact, 2 kudus. And we're on our eastern boundary, seeing if we can find some leopard tracks. We did find one, but it was going next door, which is where these kudus are standing. So what we're doing now is engaging in what's known as visual trespassing. We're looking on to another reserve. I'm joking, we are allowed to do that. So there's a group of kudu cows. And they're just finding some bits of greenery to eat. It's all very peaceful. What she's looking at, just want to make sure she isn't perhaps looking at our quarry, which is of course Tundi. Now people will tell you that they can see an antelope looking startled or looking nervous. I always find it very difficult to understand that unless they're actually alarm calling, because they have no ability to change their facial expressions. So the face, the only thing they can change is where they face their ears. And slowly the sun is coming out, which is lovely. There's a lion calling. Sounds like Treehouse Dam area. There's a lion calling. It's quite far away, but might be on Djuma. That would be quite exciting. Let me call Lauren, see where she is. There's just many people talking. Okay, let's move on from here. Station sounds like lion audio from somewhere around Treehouse Dam is my guess. Lauren, come in. Let's just find out from Lauren if she's not close by. No, I can't get her on the radio. Anyway, maybe there's a lion. That'd be very nice. I'm not sure I'd recognize a lion.
So we found the game path that these lions are walking on, and now these are two of the older lionesses just grooming one another, but one by one, the entire pride is going to come straight towards where they are. So one lioness has already walked past us, the Rasma is lying down in front of us. But I mean, the light we have on these animals right now is just absolutely gorgeous. Those eyes. And every now and then you can hear the moaning of the cubs as the older ones are playing around with them. Yeah, they all come on this path. So the cubs trying to run away from the older cubs. And then this is the mom of the two cubs walking in front, walking towards this older lioness now. So eventually this whole pride is going to come straight to where we are. The little white lioness coming out the bush now. She's so lovely to listen to. And you just zoom out quick and you can see the entire pride here coming, you know, to groom each other, just to share that love again. Big yawn. This is one of the big lionesses, one of the older females. She's over 14 now. Nice to hear just the moaning, the sounds given off. Now the older cubs are starting to play with one another. It's just too much going on. Both the cubs are now approaching the mom. Actually, no. Mom's already moved past. I think Alice, age 8, wants to know how wild are these lions. Alice, they are as wild as they come. There's no... they're habituated to vehicles. But no, these cubs were born in the wild from the mother. She's hidden them. There are leopards around, there are hyenas around, there are elephants around. I mean, these are as wild as they come. You could not get wilder lions. I think people have, misconceive that these might be quite tame because we can park the vehicle so close to it. So they are quite used to vehicles or habituated to vehicles. But I could tell you now, Alice, if I had to jump off here and be on foot or walk around, it'd be a completely different scenario. So they're not used to human beings. They're used to seeing us on the vehicles. But we can by no means go pick one up or, stroke its belly. So completely wild. I'm going to keep quiet for a little while because it's so nice just to hear all the lion noises going on around us as the grooming continues. It's a majestic sight, eh? The Raspa walking through the long grass like that. He's very wild. You can see how he looks at the vehicle and then edges away. So all the sounds you can hear is from activity happening right behind us. All the growling, moaning. Oh, this one's stringing his stick along, of course. Something this pride often does is just one fetches a stick and takes it along, and the others will get jealous and try to steal her stick a little bit later. Here comes the mom. She's looking good. Okay, it seems like we have come to the end of our kiddies session. So now, everyone else, please send through your comments and questions to #WildEarth or at FC if you're watching on YouTube. What we're going to do, again, is try and loop around. So majority of the prize has actually gone past us, just behind us. So we're going to try and loop around and get to the front of them again. They're following one game path, which is quite nice. So if we find this game path on the other side, we'll be able to find them again. So yeah, for now, let's try and loop around.
We actually have buffalo to our left and elephants to our right. Neither are happy to see one another. The elephants have gone into the thicket though, so we don't have a visual, but we have buffalo. And I have a funny... Oh my goodness me. I have a funny feeling it's the same herd that I had yesterday. Now, there's lions on this property. I know there is. We heard them last night. Or we heard one. I'm not sure if it's one lion, one male lion on its own, or if it's a pride. But I heard them, or it. And there's buffalo here. So that could make sense. I think we're going to stay with these buffalo a little while and race around to where I think the lions could be. I often think the animals must be relieved when morning comes around. The sun warms them up, it's light, they can see. There must be a sense of relief there, I think. But in a buffalo herd, what's really, really interesting, it's not just buffaloes wandering, deciding where to go at last minute. The actual movements of the herd are determined by specific individuals, and they're called pathfinders. So they're not necessarily the dominant ones, they're not necessarily the dominant bull of the herd, but they act as leaders. Because there needs to be some sort of coordination, or else the buffalo will end up getting lost, they'll scatter, they'll lose one another. So there needs to be some sense of coordination in the herd, and it's the pathfinder's job to do that. If the herd splits, believe it or not, it's the pathfinder's job to lead its members to one another again, and therefore reunite. Good morning. How's your breakfast? There's the youngsters. Yes, I think this is the same herd. Of course, breakfast is not too exciting. It will be grass, and small grass with a side of grass, because they're bulk grazers. That's the way they feed. They feed in bulk, a bit like elephants, and they'll just keep eating large quantities of grass as they move. Oh, the fork-tailed drongos are out. And the oxpeckers. Everybody's awake. You see up here, BK, there's the fork-tailed drongo just up here watching. Up here. I call them the spies or the eyes of the bush. They're everywhere. Always watching. I did a bushwalk once where the fork-tailed drongo followed us the whole way. And that's what they do. They're a blackbird, look at that fork tail, and they follow herbivores. It's so interesting. They know that they don't need to bother hunting or waste any time and energy. If they just follow the large herbivores, that will lead them to food. Easy snacks. And I guess it's easy snacks for the oxpeckers too, getting all those ticks. Doc, you're asking about the herd. This is a breeding herd. They're very gregarious and social in nature anyway, and it's more common to come across mixed herds, which is exactly what we're looking at. You can call it a breeding herd or mixed herds, and it can go up to hundreds and hundreds of individuals, and they can increase or decrease depending on the season. It's a sort of dynamic, fluid group. It doesn't always stay the same, and it's made up of youngsters, mothers, females, males, or the sort of other alternative will be to find Daga boys. And Daga boys are normally older males, and they're known to be extremely grumpy. You don't want to come across some Daga boys. That's a Zulu word, actually, and it means mud. So it's the mud boys. And sometimes they just get too old and they'd rather leave the herd, probably not sort of reproductive anymore, and they spend a life either on their own or with other Daga boys. They've passed their reproductive peak, and that's normally about 10 years old. So once you get to, you see, is that it? I think that was a flaming grimace for the morning. I love it when you see the buffalo's teeth. They have a really wide row of incisors, actually, and you can see that when they do the flaming grimace. They use these incisors to crop the grass. But yes, you will either come across a mixed breeding herd or a group of Daga boys, which you could also call bachelor herd. And because the Daga boys are on their own, they lack the safety of a herd. They lack safety in numbers, and therefore they're sort of easy pickings for the lions. They're older, very often wounded, injured, and the lions will seek out the Daga boys. Because they're older, you tend to find Daga boys around water holes where the vegetation is softer. And Bessie, you're asking, where do oxpeckers go at night time? They rest in trees. Now, they follow the herbivores. It's not just buffalo. You'll find oxpeckers on giraffes, rhino, antelopes, all the way down to the smallest antelope you normally find oxpeckers on is impala. And they are, of course, a medium-sized antelope. And they follow them all day long. It's mainly the red-bills that we get here. And I think that was just a little scuffle. A scuffle between males, most likely. And yes, they will follow the ungulates, and they will rest in the trees at night time. Okay, I think we're going to go and catch these elephants before we lose them. So we're going to bumble on forward, BK and I, and try and find those giant grey mammals.
Good morning, everyone, again from another absolutely superlative morning out here at Swala Kalahari. Look at this, hey? It is just incredible. It's going to be a beautiful day today. Great having you with us always. It's always such a pleasure. Genre on camera and myself, Dylan. I know I keep saying this, but we do it. So, yeah, we're just going to be spending time again, like we've chatted about the past couple of days. I'm just really keen on getting these baby meerkats when they do come out, and I really would be so bleak if we actually missed that opportunity. So please just bear with us. In the mornings, we're going to be spending our drives over the next couple of days, or at least week and a half, at these meerkats, and then the afternoon drives we'll kind of like scavenge around and see what we can find. But yeah, feel free to chip in, ask questions if there's things you want to know about, whether it's about meerkats or the general ecology of the area or plants, animals. Yeah, just please just engage with us, and it's just going to be an amazing day out there. So we've taken bets now. So these central burrows over here are where we think they're going to be coming out. I've got my money on one of the far burrows on the back left. Jandro is going to choose. I don't know what his one's going to be. And then our meerkat habituator is loitering around here somewhere. Veronique, I'm sure she's got the drop on both of us in terms of which one they're going to exit at. And still no sign of honey badgers here, which, like, for me, I'm like kind of in like two minds. I absolutely adore those animals. But I'm very pleased that we're not seeing any kind of sign at these meerkat burrows, because the last time they decided to make an appearance, the end result wasn't great for the meerkats. So I'm quite pleased that we, at this particular burrow system, that we're not seeing any active sign of honey badgers. But I'm not going to object if we do. What we are seeing every morning is lots of porcupine activity still. And that's going to be something very, very special that I've got on the cards for us to see. I still really want to show everyone porcupine in daylight. They are pretty much, in terms of their foraging behavior, they are strictly nocturnal. That's one of the species that is. But they often come out in this cooler weather in the late afternoons, and they sun themselves at the entrances of the burrows. But they're quite shy animals, so we'll have to be as sneaky as a weasel to try see a porcupine out in daylight. Oh, that is the best question I can get for the day, unless someone wants to try beat that. Christy, who is age 15, has asked, have I got a picture of a snake weasel that I can show you? Okay, so I've never personally seen one, and they've got a very, very wide distribution, and that's the crazy thing. Incredibly difficult to see, incredibly shy. Even within South Africa, the few museum specimens that there are have been roadkills. You know, people that have knocked them over on big major roads in South Africa. Incredibly difficult species to see. But what I do have here, and I will show you a black and white picture of a snake weasel. Let me see if I can get my book here. I've got it right here with me, but I just want to grab it. If you can bear with me for 1 second, I will see if I can actually hold it out for you. Thank you so much. It's also, just so you know, it's also called a white-naped weasel, or a striped weasel. White-naped weasel, 425, I think, if I can do my numbers correctly. So there we go. This is not a great, unfortunately it's about the best picture I have here, but and it says that's a yawning striped-naped weasel showing its wide gape. They've got an unusually wide gape, just out into. In other words, the gape is how wide it can open its mouth, and that is one of its designs that enables it to actually grab little rodents underground, that it can get a latch onto them. The other crazy thing about this animal is that if it can get its head and shoulders into a burrow, it can actually then turn around in that burrow. That's how incredibly flexible this animal is, and its spine. Sorry, I know these pictures are tiny in that, so Jandro's doing a good job there. But look at its distribution, right up into a massive part of Africa. So and even this book is now, this is probably 15, 16 years old. I think it's been since then. But even these distribution maps will change now. But yeah, great question. Christy, who's 15, asked that. So unfortunately, one day when I'm big, I'll maybe get a picture of a snake weasel. So, like I've mentioned it before briefly in terms of common names. Common names can be very, very misleading. So snake weasel, white-naped weasel, African weasel, these are all the exact same animal. But if you talk about Priscillegale albinuca, that is, no one is going to get that wrong in scientific circles. There we go.
So we just had this incredible scene of this pride coming through, sunrise, sunlight from right behind us, and they're just walking straight towards us. But I think they've pretty much found their spot now. So you can see still one lioness coming from the back, and all of them came from there. It was just perfect. But if you look at them now, a whole lot of them have gone into the shade of one of the quarries, and I think this might be where they decide to spend the day. Which isn't bad. It's quite nice and open. They'll be able to see everywhere, all around them. Oh, it's the mom with the two cubs coming. You just see the bouncy little head behind her. And then here comes the other one. I don't think the cubs are quite ready to sleep yet. It'll be quite interesting to see who they decide to annoy. Oh, she's coming onto the mound. Isn't that just gorgeous? And then the two cubs, I'm sure, will follow her. Here they come. Getting braver and braver. They're not really following the exact path that mom takes anymore. Okay, so it looks like they might annoy one of the older lionesses. Listen to her growling. Listen to the cub moaning at the lioness, growling at her. So she started growling, and it made the one cub sit down very quickly. The one at her tail. Actually, I think it's lying down on her leg. It's basically stopped right there. Oh, here comes the other Ross now. You just see some of the lions lifted their head and they looked to the right, well, their left, our right, the western side. And so the other Rossmouth, the blonder, the paler one, is actually approaching through the grass right now. It was such a majestic scene watching them, especially wintertime, watching them move through the dried grass with, you know, autumn colors behind them on the leaves. Really one of my favorite things to see. They're looking good, both the Rossmouths, who were saying this morning. It's both having a good hair day. Quite lovely. Julius and Constantin asking if I'm not scared of the lions. So Julius and Constantin know, you know, it's there's a healthy respect of them for sure, but I wouldn't say I'm scared of them. It's been my job for 6 years to come find them and show people lions, and the last thing you want to do is instill fear of lions to people. So with us, there's a very healthy respect. I mean, while we're sitting in the car, we'll never stand up. We'd never try get higher than basically the outline of the entire safari vehicle. Just because we don't want to draw attention to ourselves. We also don't want to give them something they're not used to for these lions. So they're quite used to the vehicles, and they're quite used to us moving around in the vehicles, which, you know, it just maintains that healthy respect for us, but no fear really. Although I must say, every now and then when they walk past my side, I have no door on the driver's side. Then you might skip a breath or two, but I don't know. not really a fear, especially now during the day. I think if I had to be walking around at night, I would be scared of lions. Then, of course, I can't see what they can see. And I think you almost look off balance. You look like prey, Julius and Constantin. But for now, I'm not scared of the lions at all. See, that youngster in the back is playing with a stick again. Oh. Louisa, age 8, wants to know how small are lions when they are born. Louisa, don't quote me on this, but I think it's something like 300 grams or 400 grams. It's tiny, tiny, tiny. Very, very, very small. Yeah, they are very small, very helpless. They're completely naked, completely blind. No hair development yet, but very, very, very small. Which is why, Louisa, if you watched from the start when we just started finding these cubs, remember the mom was actually hiding them in a den site and very, very thick vegetation right next to the Timbavati riverbed, or right in the Timbavati riverbed, so that they could hide away from any other animals. Even birds, they were small enough so that predatory birds would be able to pick them up. Oh, sorry, Londeka has informed me that according to Google, they are no bigger than 1.8 kilograms. It's actually a lot heavier than I thought they would be. But still very, very, very small. And even at this age, they are tiny, especially compared to the larger ones. But I think these two are going to grow up to be very strong. Just the amount of walking and playing they've been doing, be quite nice to see. Yeah, you can see some of the pride's still in the sun. For now, it's still warming up. It was a lot warmer than yesterday, but I think they have literally found their sleeping spot. I think they'll spend the rest of the day here. Well, unless where we are is quite open and clear, so you might find that wildebeest or zebra or something would pass through here to get to the watering hole where we just found them. And that could happen. That could make them move, could make them shift. They might go and try hunt it. Or you'll find elephants come through here and they'll chase the lions away. But for now, all of them look quite calm and happy, just staying in the sun like this. One's just lifted his head for no apparent reason, looking around. I think he might just drop it again soon. I must say, all their eyes in this golden light is just stunning. It's really phenomenal. Be a nice day, a pretty day. We've got a bit of cloud cover around, so it should be a nice sunset again tonight. But wow, we were saying earlier, I mean, the timing was spot on because they started moving about 5 minutes after we got to the watering hole. And if they moved like that, our next plan was to check the watering hole and then check the road further southeast. But they were still on the western side of the watering hole. So timing just worked out this morning. Right time, right place. So we've been looking at this young lioness's eye, and it just looks like something has swollen over the eye. It looks a little bit injured, but I think she'll heal just perfectly fine. She's still playing a lot. She's still just as active as the rest. But yeah, it just remains to be seen what happens in the next couple of weeks.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
So the sun has just peeked out from behind the ridges there, and it's going to start warming up nice and quickly now, we hope. It's been a fairly chilly morning, but these meerkats, I think they're going to be out in the next 3-4 minutes at the most, I reckon. I'm hoping. And the thing is, we're taking a big chance, and I know it takes a bit of patience and sitting with us, and kind of Chandra and I are notorious for sitting and sometimes not seeing anything. But if we get them coming out, it's going to be incredibly special, and I'm just worried that if we say we take a chance, say, well, let's give it a couple of days, then we'll come back, and we miss that first appearance of those pups, yes, I will not be a happy camper. And then people are going to be like begging us to stay at these meerkats with those pups out, because they are just adorable little things. And it's a big world out here. Lots of predators, lots of challenges that they're going to face before they get to adulthood. I'm just really keen to see how many pups she actually has. You know, if it's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's 6 in this group now, so I mean she could almost double the size of this group overnight if they all survive. So, but anyway, we're going to take up our positions over here and just sit quietly and see when they come out.
We are watching over a bird known as the Burchell's cuckoo, which many of you will know quite well. And this particular Burchell's cuckoo thinks that it is very well hidden in the grass, but unbeknownst to it, we can see it. Now we've come down to the southern end of Djuma, to Twin Dams, and we were thought maybe the lion, this is where David thought the lion was calling from. David was wrong, weren't you, David? Mm-hmm. But I haven't been proved right either, so we don't know where it is. Lauren's gone off that way, so we'll go back round towards the east. We did find tracks of Tundi coming back onto Djuma, which was very nice. They were without her cub, so she was on her own when she came back onto Djuma sometime, I'd say, around midnight yesterday evening, give or take 4 hours either side. I don't know if she's hunting. I suspect she is hunting, which is going to make finding her really kind of a potluck kind of a thing. But we'll keep trying. I'm going to head off back towards the east and see what we can find that away.
Righty, so we're still with the pride. Not too much has changed, except one by one they'll start getting up and moving into the shade. So the little white lioness also getting up now, moving. Well, actually, she might go play with the youngsters. Or not. So moving past her sister. But I think one by one they'll actually go into the shade. So they have found their spot for today. She's going right on top of the termite mound. Go investigate. They look very bright in the sun. But even look there now, when she lies down, you can just see the tip of her ears. She had to put her head down, completely blends in with the grass. Which is what makes them so hard to find. So, I mean, we've got 17 lions here. We've got 17 lions around us. And, you know, if they were lying down in longer grass, you'd really, really, really struggle to see all 17 of them. Catherine has asked, is this an albino lion? So Catherine, no, it's a white lion. So when she was standing up, I don't know if you saw the back of her ears and the tip of her tail. You know, there's still pigmentation. There's pigmentation in her eyes as well. So there's still coloring to it. So it's known as a white lion or leucistic lion. So basically exactly the same species as the tawny lions around her. It's just a genetic variation, a recessive gene that causes her to be white. So one of the youngsters are now moving off into maybe a bigger piece of shade. Yeah, social distancing right there. Whereas the others have picked quite a small bit of shade. I don't think they'll be moving for quite some time.
So we've had an interesting morning trying to find leopards, but we've got distracted by some birds with very long tails. There's a family of magpie shrikes just feeding on most likely some ants in the long grass, but there's been some interspecies wars happening, but unfortunately we've missed it, but maybe it will happen again. We had southern white-crowned shrikes coming to chase the magpie shrikes away, and now the southern red-billed hornbill is also trying to join the feeding frenzy that is going on. But there are more than one magpie shrike, so maybe that southern red-billed hornbill doesn't really stand a chance. It's been quite clever in going to feed over in the distance. But the birds with the long tails have been very protective about who comes and feeds with them in the pile of insects that they are feasting on. But it is nice to see. And then I wanted to tell you, last night I saw something so weird that I haven't seen before. I suppose it's not weird, but we heard these strange chirps coming up from the tops of the trees, and we know that magpie shrikes and a lot of the other birds are quite social and, live in communities together. They're just sitting, there's still one in the grass. And the next minute we looked up and there was about, between 6 and 8 southern white-crowned shrikes all huddled up right next to one another, forming a caterpillar on the branch, fast asleep, which was really cool. I didn't know that they did that. I've seen it with lots of other bird species, particularly the bee-eaters, but I hadn't seen it with them. And it's a pity that the white-crowned shrikes are not here, because they're also quite aggressive, as shrikes typically are. They've just flown up to the branch just above them. There we go. You can see them all sitting there now. There's quite a few of them. Also, a Burchell starling by the look. No, it's not. It's a red-billed buffalo weaver. There's lots and lots of birds here, but we're going to carry on looking for the leopards. We will let the birds be.
We have a very rare sighting, and that is a semi-relaxed duiker eating breakfast. Now, duikers are not rare here, don't get me wrong, but they're not easy to put on camera. I don't think they're the cameraman's favorite, because normally they dart off as soon as they hear a noise. But this one is thoroughly enjoying something. Now, they're browsers. That means they browse the leaves. They're not grazers. But this little one is eating something on the ground, so I imagine it's some delicious twig or fruit or seeds or forbs. You see how cautious they are. They're scared. And an antelope this size, it doesn't make sense to be in big herds like impala. Once you get below the size of an impala, it makes sense for you to be on your own and blend into the background. Christopher, you're saying this is adorable. Isn't it just? Duikers are really, really lovely when you can get them to stay put for more than 30 seconds. But talking about their diet, for antelopes, they actually consume quite unusual food. There's been lots of different records of duikers actually eating nest and ground birds, as well as reptiles, small reptiles, and mopani worms. Now, that's very unusual for an antelope species to eat. Just going to turn my radio down. Excuse me. So duikers are solitary. Unless there's a lady around, a female in estrus, they are solitary. They blend perfectly into the background, because not only have they got to avoid predators on the ground, be it leopard, lion, wild dog, hyena, they've got aerial predators too. Common duikers are very often snatched up by the likes of martial eagles. So they've got threats coming in all directions. We're at Treehouse Dam, almost, because James is convinced the lion audio that we heard is coming from Treehouse. Davy is convinced it's coming from Twin Dams, so the two of them are not agreeing, but there's lions here somewhere. That's what's brought us to this area. But the fact that this duiker is so relaxed makes me think we're not on the right track. I don't think a duiker would be this relaxed if there's hungry lions around. White lady, you are asking, is she pregnant? I don't think so. I'm really not sure, but it's really, really common for duikers to have a sort of bulbous belly if they've been eating a lot. I'm going to get my binoculars out, bear with me. I think this is the longest duiker segment. I'm just looking at the horns. I don't want to go any closer. I know BK would like to get better views, but as soon as we turn on the engine, it's going to run. I think there's something wrong with her left horn. Shall we try and see if we can get closer, BK? Okay. It's risky business moving the vehicle when there's a duiker around. You can do this, Lauren. Hello. We did it. Can you believe it? Definitely needs an award for the most relaxed duiker in town. And now that we've got closer, and we're not so blinded by the sun, this is a boy duiker. So as for the question, is it pregnant? I hope not. If it is, then we have had some groundbreaking science right in front of us. Not only is there lions that fly and invisible leopards, as BK and I have been discussing, a pregnant male duiker would be a miracle. We're really on to something today, BK. It's definitely a boy. Okay. I think that's us lost our visuals of the duiker for the morning, I'm afraid. So yes, in answer to your question, no. We have a small little monitor here in the car, but sadly when the sun is this bright, we can't see anything out of it. Okay, onwards and upwards for our search for these flying lions.
So there, they're just getting out now, just getting out of bed. First rays of light on them, on the burrows themselves. It's still quite windy this morning, same as yesterday. In fact, a little bit more than yesterday. So they are going to very likely be a bit more wary. Remember we were chatting a couple of drives back when we were sitting with the meerkats with the wind. That was about a week ago, and how alert they are when there's a lot of wind around, because it really masks the approach of predators, which in consequence means that the colony will be a lot more at risk. So we're just going to bide our time here. I just wanted to come back to a question that was asked yesterday about how old should you, or old, what is the recommended age to start learning to be a guide? And like one of the things I always drive with a whole pile of books. In my vehicle, I've got a yay big pile of books next to my bed. And it's like a whole range of things. So and I've done stuff like that since I was a young kid. So times like this, you're watching meerkats, or you doing a stakeout at a carcass of something. You can sit there with your binoculars, watch, but then also give yourself something to do. Have a book with you, look at birds, try identify plants, read up on stink bugs. There's a lot that one can do, and that can be done at any age. So often these times when you're sitting with one species, or you're sitting very quietly somewhere, is a very, very good opportunity to start learning and observing what's going on around you. One of the things, and it'll be absolutely blind luck if we see it, because it'll be very difficult, and we'll have to be live at the time. But at this time of the morning now, you're getting these small groups, aggregations of doves and starlings coming through, moving down to the waterhole. There's a waterhole about 2 kilometers from us in that direction, and these birds are coming zooting over low level in these small groups, but fast. So for us to try actually get a shot of those would be almost impossible. But it's just interesting to see, and you start building up these patterns of behavior in the wild. And our colleagues down at Ngala, Djuma, Pinda, those areas as well, they'll be able to tell you the exact same thing. You start understanding these patterns, and it's doesn't mean to say that you will find what you're looking for, but it gives you a greater likelihood of finding what you'd be looking for. Sam, who's age 6, has just asked, how old do meerkats get? Sam, that's an interesting question, because in captivity, you can get meerkats that can get to 9, 10, 11 years old. But out here in the wild, probably 4 or 5 years would be a good innings for these little guys. I mean, they've got a lot of wear and tear. They're hunting for their own food. They're facing these ice cold conditions sometimes, scorching hot in summer. There's snakes that are after them. There's these big monitor lizards that chase them around down burrows. There's eagles that want to eat them. You can get disease, rabies potentially. And there's fighting with other meerkats. So they constantly succumb to this attrition on them. And, so the life of a meerkat out here is not easy. And very often when you go through books like this, and they give you the ages of animals, and that's very often based on studies that have been done on captive animals, and which is it's not a very, very good proxy for wild populations that are living with these harsh environmental conditions. There's a little bird here, and I'll try to show you one. Jean-Dre, I don't know if you can you see that bird sitting on that tree there? Okay, well, we'll try to show you a bird just now. That we've actually recorded those birds getting to 12 years old. That's in a wild. Jean-Dre's going to try it. There's one sitting in there, but it's not an easy shot, so we'll see if we can get it. Okay, that species, that's called a white-browed sparrow weaver. Super, super, super common on Swallow, and they make these little ball-shaped nests in colonies. Now there he goes. We've got ones like that one of our research teams has been working on them for just 12 years. And they've got birds in that population that are that age. So that's pretty impressive. So you can't just look at the size of a thing and say, well, because it's smaller, therefore it won't live as long. because you're the size of an elephant, you're going to live longer. You know, it's really got to do, there's multiple things that come into play there. And we were talking about these spruces in Sweden that are, you know, that are dated at like 5,500 or 6,000 years old. And they're not big, they're small things, you know, these bristlecone pines, I think in California, that are also dated like 3,500, 4,000 years old. I mean, they're not big trees, but their ages are absolutely staggering, to say the least. Shinji Bunny has just asked, will other animals use abandoned meerkat burrows or meerkat burrows? The answer is absolutely 100%, no questions. Other animals will use these burrows. You know, we're not going to move now, we can do it later. Some of the burrows on this side, there's been little rodents. I can't see which species of rodent, maybe gerbils or something like that, but there's been rodents in and out here. Colonies like this with these multiple entrances and that are very likely to also host things like Cape ground squirrels, yellow mongoose, weasels. Polecats will sometimes shelter in burrows like this. Well, there's such a huge range. Snakes, now that it's winter, you'll often get snakes that go down these burrows. So yeah, these burrows are, any hole in the ground in this environment is absolute gold for animals.
It's been quite interesting watching this pride move. It's like they leapfrogs. Now you've got the one cub actually eating the tree. But so where the one older youngster plonked itself down in the shade, the entire pride moved to there, and then another youngster just went a little bit further. And so after a while, the entire pride again got up and moved this way. So it's been quite interesting to see how they move. And then, of course, the cubs, the youngsters, the one eating the tree now, they don't want to sleep yet. So they're just super curious about every new spot they move to. So now it's chewing a branch. I mean, why not? Might start irritating some of the older youngsters a little bit later. I think what he might do is try pull the branch, and then by doing that, go sit on the other youngster's head. Let's see. Comes the older white male. One by one, they're just rejoining the pride. Very happy with his stick. You just walk past the other cub. That's a good spot. That's more towards the middle of the bush, so it should be in the shade for longer. And then down. At least the cub is still awake and still playing with its stick. Don asking, would I say the lionesses in this pride are bigger than the others? So Don, if you mean by others, the other prides, yes. To be honest, I maintain that some of these, especially the two lead lionesses of the Birmingham Pride, are probably the two largest lionesses I have ever seen. Very, very good genes. The other two, see, it was always going to happen. Roll over and start playing with the other's head. So it's going to start irritating the other youngsters, because now the older cubs, they want to sleep. Then the younger cubs still have too much energy. Might just jump on them. Let's see. No, careful about that approach. So Don, yeah, especially the two older lionesses, they're very, very, very large. Very good genes, which is why, I must say it's actually a very pretty pride as well. Before the Birmingham Pride was territorial over the most of Van Beyond and Gala, it used to be Squirrel Pride, And I must say, those lionesses weren't as big. Oh, look at the other youngster being cuddled by one of the older males. So that's the little sister trying to get to her brother, and she just got gripped by one of the older young males. To move very carefully through a pride of lions. She's jealous about the stick. Could literally just sit here and watch them all day. These two youngsters. So the one's chewing a stick and the other one's trying to find a stick for herself. Though maybe now she's ready to go play. That's awesome. Now you can hear them moaning. Sorry, Lorna. I know Lorna made a comment, but I couldn't quite hear what Lorna was saying. But it is rather cute. You know, it's amazing watching them, hearing them, listening to them. I was saying earlier that the cubs moving through the grass, Lorna said cuteness overload. No, absolutely, I agree. With these two, you know, any baby animal, really, it's so nice how they want to explore everything. And they've just got too much energy. The older ones, as you can see here, majority of them have their heads down. They're ready to sleep. But the youngsters, not just yet. They still want to play. Luckily, there are two of them, and they can play with each other, or just any tree. But you can see the young male is now looking at us majority of the time. And now he looked away. Comes another lion from just behind the youngsters. You just see movement in the grass, but you can't really see anything else. Magnificent. This is, even though we are pretty much in an open clearing, the grass is long enough for these lions to hide very, very well. So as you can imagine, good hunting ground. It's one of the, I think this is the young male of the white dot female, one of the lead lionesses. See, it's got a bit of a mane coming on already. And at such a young age. Right into the middle of the bush again. Time to sleep. Yeah, the male cub just keeps watching us. Very, very curious about this vehicle. Of course, by now, you know, they would be quite habituated as well, because they've seen how their mother reacts to the vehicle. They've seen how the entire pride reacts to the vehicle. So by now, even at this age, they know that we mean them no harm. So they won't really run away from us anymore, which is what's so lovely about lion prides. It's easy to habituate them, or easier than habituating leopards, I find. Which are quite a stunning morning with the Birmingham Pride.
Hello everybody and welcome back. As you may have noticed, you haven't seen me for a while because it has been a very quiet morning here. I even got excited when I saw a herd of impala earlier. I've basically just felt I've pretty much just felt like I am Marcel's taxi today. So I thought, let's stop and have a look at a tree. There's always something to look at, and this is one of my favorite trees. The English name for this tree is a buffalo thorn, and one of the beliefs why they call this a buffalo thorn is that when a lion is trying to attack a buffalo, he'll back into the tree like this, which has lots of thorns, and then he would be able to defend his front from the lions, and his back is protected by the trees. Scientific name is a Ziziphus macronata, but the Afrikaans, which is one of the languages that we have here in South Africa, have a very interesting name for this tree. It's called a blinkblaar wachabiki. So blinkblaar means shiny leaf. As you can see here, the leaf is quite shiny. And then wachabiki means wait a minute. Because when you walk past and the tree hooks up onto you, it will hook into your body and you'll be screaming, ah, wait a minute. But there's quite a few interesting traditional beliefs about this tree. One of them being that they call it the tree of life, and they say that a branch represents the life path. And so you'll notice that the branch has a zigzag formation, and at every junction you've got a hook and a straight thorn. Now, you'll travel along your life path. You'll get to a point where you need to make a decision. When you make that decision, you'll base it on the past, which is the hook thorn points backwards, represents the past, and then the straight thorn represents the future, and then your decision will be made, and then you will change or alter your path through life, and that's with the zigzag. So every decision you make sort of alters your pathway through life. The hook thorn also has quite a few traditional beliefs. If a family member dies in another area, in some of the traditions, they believe you can hook the spirit and bring it back to the homeland. And they'll also plant these trees or put these trees on the graves of the dead family members, because they believe that the hook thorn will help hook the spirit and take it through to heaven. Because of the zigzag formation, in some cultures, it also is believed that if you want to hide from lightning, this is a very good tree to hide under. And of course, we know that you should never hide under a tree from lightning. It is a very fast-growing tree, so this is a small one, but they can get to about 7 meters tall, which is pretty big. They do have berries. We're not going to see the berries now, but if you are really, really desperate, you can use the berries to make coffee, which is also very interesting. Because of these thorny formation on this tree, these leaves are very nutritious, and if you eat it, it actually has quite a pleasant taste to it. And that's why this tree has these thorns, to protect this tree from any animals like or any browsers. All right, but we're going to carry on, see what else we can find, and let's let this tree be.
Hi everybody, sorry, I'm just having a talking to this elephant bull that's right in front of us. He is causing an enormous traffic jam. Where are the traffic police this morning? Because, no, I'm not taking your nonsense today. Sorry, you can see all the elephants have been very nervous this morning because the amount of leopards that have been here today. Sorry, I'm just shouting at elephants. Stop it now. Go away. Young elephant. I'm sorry. I know it's ridiculous, but he's causing unnecessary drama. Look at the herd now. So you can see how they're all standing quite close together. They're not panicked with us. They're very relaxed. The little babies, all the calves in the middle, but they're smelling. And we've had 2 different sets of leopard tracks come through here. So you might remember at the beginning of the show, I said that I could hear elephants trumpeting, which we know is a distress sound. They're not normally happy when they trumpet out loud like that. And then we had female leopard tracks, as well as a big male leopard that had walked through the area too. So they came charging actually out of the drainage line literally a few minutes before we arrived on the scene. And you can see them. They're all just picking up scents, trying to figure out what's happening at the moment. But they're definitely a little bit uneasy, but not with us. And you can see some of the older elephants socializing, or some of the cows. So just checking in with the younger bulls. No, that bull's now becoming a bit nosy. And here comes Kumo, right at the back. You can see his huge head towering over everybody. If he's going to push through the herd, I might move back, because you're going to watch them as they spread out. Hello, boy. You can see him in there. Look how much bigger Kumo is in comparison to even the big cows on the left-hand side. Those aren't particularly big elephant cows, but they're mature. But you can see now he's just sort of standing there motionless. Also, probably all just having a chat with one another very quietly. Remember, most of elephant communication happens at a frequency so low that we can't even hear. So when we watch them standing like this, I'm sure they're having fat chats. But this is unbelievable. There are so many elephants. Like, it's crazy. Your little one's got a stick. There's that your entertainment for the morning? Don't let that bull take that stick from you. You show him who's boss, little elephant. You dropped your toy. If these elephants do come closer, do you know what I'm going to do, Kat? I'm actually just going to move back, if that's all right. Big girl. So this is the same herd we saw yesterday. We know that they're very relaxed. Just because there's a rather large big elephant bull in the mix there, I want to make sure that I move up a bit and just give them some space. So I'll just go up back here. It's not, I know it's not nice for you, Kat, because we're shooting into the sun. Go on, car, into the gear. I'll just stop like this for a moment. Sorry. And then we might just have to move again as if they come down towards us. But they could all fan off and go their separate ways. Unless, as Kumo's doing, pushes the herd towards us, then again we'll just move. Oh, there's a little baby. Watch out. I might have to move again. Okay, I'm going to move again, just because Kumo's picked up the pace a bit. Well, they're all coming towards us. Okay. It's not going to be the greatest view now, sorry. But we're just going to give them some space. I think you see all the dust that I've kicked up now as I've reversed. Now, young Emma, who's just 4 years old, wants to know, why do elephants have trunks? And is it their nose or is it their mouth? So, Emma, the trunk is an extension of the nose. So it's got two nostrils. Like at the edge of the trunk, you'll see them. And it's got these two little fingertip-like structures at the end of its trunk too, which help it to pick up really small things. So that is its nose. And it has got a mouth too. So it can breathe through its nose and its mouth. But what they do with their nose, which is really cool, or their trunk... Oh, here comes Kumo. Hello, boy. No. And Kumo is in a bit of a mood this morning. He doesn't seem like his normal happy self, but he also could have just had a bit of a speed wobble. It's quite a steep slope. But just because he's interacting with a breeding herd, I think it's important that we don't test boundaries today, and we just make sure that we give him his space. You have to be super respectful of elephants, because they are the ones that if anything is going to happen is going to cause the most problems. So I'm just going to stop here. Again, it's not the best view, but we can still see the elephants. So let me continue there. So what cool things elephants can do with their trunks is that they can suck up water with them. They can hold quite a few liters in there. But what we're seeing at the moment is the elephants using their trunks to feed. So they'll grab bits of grass and break branches, and then put them into their mouth, and then they chew it, and then they swallow it. But look at this magnificent scene. All the dust being kicked up. It actually is quite nice, with all the dead trees, and of course Big Kumo leading the way this morning. Cool, I'm just going to move back again. He's still very relaxed, but I'd like to also try to stay in front of the herd, because it is so nice. They're marching straight towards Leopard Dam. So I'm not going to look at the camera because I obviously need to focus on my rear view mirrors. It's funny, this is a very similar scene to when we had Ezulwini, the big tusker. He walked down exactly the same road that we're on right now and used the same pathway that Kumo has just used. So let me back us up, because we've got a nice big camera with a long lens, so we can zoom in, so we don't need to sit right on top of them. Just picking up the pace, ta-da, just so that I can stop like this. So Kumo's got a long line of bulls following him, and he's coming down the road towards us. And then the rest of the herd is sort of fanned off and slowly just walking on some of the other animal pathways that they have created. Well, we're going to keep following these elephants because they're not too far away from a leopard dam. So I'm going to let the elephants choose their spot to drink, and we will be waiting on the other side.
It's interesting. So they got up and moved again. and now some of them lying down. But this female, she's looking at the rest of the pride. So what happened? There was a wildebeest that moved south. So actually, well, basically to the left from where she's looking, but about 300 meters in the distance. And the wildebeest was alarm calling. So it probably smelt the lions, but there's no chance that it could have seen her. So I'm just watching her, because she would give us a cue as to what the rest of the pride would be doing. So if she gets up and she starts stalking, then you know the rest of the pride is also stalking. So she would be able to know what the rest of them are doing. But for now, it's just the female and her two youngsters, so the little white lioness. Okay, James found a leopard. We're going to send you back over to Djuma.
I'd love to say that we found her, but we didn't. We were following tracks somewhere in an entirely different position, and Bernie from Torchwood found Tundi, the leopardess. There she is. Her cub, I'm reliably informed, is in the same position where she left him 2 days ago, very calmly sunning himself on a termite mound, undisturbed. But she is still on the hunt a long way from where we last saw her. So what a joy to pick her up, hey? And I think actually the tracks we were following when we heard that she'd been found were probably Tlalamba's. Tlalamba, for those of you who are new viewers, is her daughter, the last successful raising. She's going to be 3 in November. Yo, that's quite something. Is that right? Yeah, it is. When I look at a picture like this, I think to myself, sadly, how many times I must have driven straight past a leopard. She's so perfectly hidden, and she's now moving into a little grove of tambuti trees where she'll be even more hidden than she was. I hope we're going to be able to follow her. This is a tricky area, vehicle-wise, but we'll do our best. We also don't want to get too close to her and bug her. Oh, look all right. There we go. Got a nice view. We watched her kill a kudu here once. Young kudu. Was it a young nyala? I don't remember. Young kudu, I think. Is that you and me, David? No, it was Fergus and me. Yes, and her camouflage is quite phenomenal. It does blend in nicely. I have to say that if I was to design the ultimate camouflage clothing, it wouldn't look like that. It would look like a wild dog's coat. So why nature has blessed so many animals with this sort of design. Genets, civets, servals, leopards, cheetahs. I'm not sure. It's obviously very effective. Jaguars. She's just getting a little bit of sun on the back of her head now. James Richard, it's an absolute relief that she's been on Djuma a bit more often now. Now she just needs to bring her cub across. Which she will do if she's successful in the hunt here. Then, we could be lucky. Tristan Tundy's just south of Giraffe Drip. There's a buffalo herd close by here as well. Can just hear the buffalo going. This is just wonderful stuff. Go ahead. Sorry, I just have to get on the Game Drive radio very briefly. Yeah, affirmative. She is south of Giraffe Dip, that concrete causeway near Gary Cutline. We'll try and keep up with that. Now, there's a very difficult spot here that I'm not sure we're going to be able to get through. What do you say, David? Not a chance, eh? Doesn't look great, does it? All right, let's try and get round. If we can get round there. If we can try and get round there, we'll catch up.
James, it's very cool that you've got Miss Tundy. I think, is she your favorite leopard? Anyways, we're sitting with my favorite animal now. So we followed that herd of elephants. It was just unbelievable how they came walking down the road towards us with all the dust kicking up. It was very dramatic, but now this is even better because we've got them all lined up at a leopard dam. Now, it's funny because they're drinking on the southern side of the dam, so we've gone around to not disturb them. And as much as I love staring at the rear end of an elephant, I thought that we shall sort of take a long distance view just so that you can see how many elephants have actually come down to drink. Can you hear all those sounds? Lots of slurping going on. All very thirsty. A couple of little elephants in between the legs of the adults. You can see they're not really too fazed about having a drink. They seem to be just playing around, learning how to use that hose that is a nose. Like that one, getting stuck in the mud. Oh, there's another one. Oh, careful, it's slippery. Now, Jackson, elephants actually don't worry about being clean. In fact, they prefer to be dirty. Look at that little elephant. How it's got mud everywhere. It's actually ice skating at the moment. Don't fall. Well, it would be funny if it did fall into the water. I would giggle a little bit. So elephants actually rely on staying dirty to help them keep cool and protect them from the sun. Oh, no. Oopsie daisy. Up you get. A little bit embarrassed, I'm sure, but no one reacted. So for just like a child, hey? If you don't say anything, they don't cry and they don't react. They just get up and brush off their own knees and off they go again. Very funny. So what we might even see is them tossing some mud and water over themselves So Jackson, yeah, the dirtier the elephant, the cooler that it might be, and also the dust and the mud is going to help protect it from the sun, and also any little annoying insect that might be trying to bite the elephant. So that's quite cool, hey? Sometimes I wish I could be an elephant just so that I didn't have to shower all the time. Well, if I did, I could shower and then cover myself in mud and call myself clean. I don't think any parents would really appreciate that, so don't go roll around in the mud unless you get hosed off outside before you come back in. But this is honestly the perfect scene. And I think it's really important, like, obviously yesterday afternoon we sat with the same breeding herd and we allowed them to come around us, and they were very relaxed. And I was saying to you how when you get a gut feeling, you really must stick to your guns and listen to what your gut says. And this morning it just said to me, this is not the time and place to allow the elephants to come around us. They were in such awe of Kumo, the big elephant bull. I don't know if you saw that. The whole herd was almost mesmerized by his presence. But, that can change at any moment. Something could go wrong. Kumo could react negatively in the herd, and then that would obviously have repercussions. And that's when you do not want to be sitting in the middle of a herd of elephants. So I took that moment to just back up and give them space. We knew that they were determined to come and drink water. That was their aim. And I didn't really want to get in their way. But it was still really magical just seeing pretty much the camera lens just filled with elephants as it is now, but there was no light in between. Just a few sort of rays of sun catching through the elephant's legs and then watching the little ellies push on through. But most of them already moving off, not having a long drink this morning. There's no need to, water is available so they can come back again later. Otherwise, you'll see elephants spending, a long period of time at a watering hole if it's going to be their only drink for the day. But as we've been talking about migratory movements of elephants and the matriarchs storing all that knowledge of where there's water and which dams at what time of the year, they know that within just a few kilometers they could find another water source, whether it's here on Pridelands in Baluli Game Reserve or just a stone throw away in Jijani. There's also quite a bit of water down that side too. Maybe also hear an aeroplane flying around. We're not too far away from the Hoedspruit Air Force Base, so we often have small aircrafts and jets and things going up. Well, I'm going to definitely sit here and enjoy this moment a little bit longer, and hopefully some of the elephants will be brave enough to have a swim.
We've caught up with Tundi. She's doing much the same as she was before, staring intently into the bushes, hoping for a quarry. Sorry, I just got to get on the radio. There's a track heading towards the Mulwati on the western side of Giraffe Dip off Gari Cutline. Basically just continues off Gari Cutline, just come down that road. I've got your audio, just come south from there. She's now looking a little bit sleepy. And if you listen very carefully, you can hear a woodpecker pecking away above her head. Unconcerned by the voracious predator beneath his tree. I don't think she's spotted anything yet. Jenna, you say beautiful Tundi? Yes, indeed. As I've said many times, very few people brave enough to see a leopard and say, oh, that's an unattractive leopard. Tundi, of course, is our favourite. Well, one of our favourites, certainly. We are live, but you can approach. Somebody asking if they can come in, and I couldn't tell from their eyes what was going on in their minds because they're wearing those totally reflective sunglasses. So I'm looking at an android. Anyway, here we are with Thandi. And now she's moving down probably towards the riverbed area. This is exactly where we saw her kill that kudu at once. I wonder if, like us, these cats remember where they killed things. By like us, I mean, I remember wherever I've seen a leopard and I always check that area. Oof. That's a wonderful example of how effectively she moves. I wonder if she has seen something. I don't think she has. A little dyker did run in here somewhere. Maybe she's looking for that. Yeah, I think she may have heard something. Yeah, she's seen something now. Now, the last time I was in this position with her, every time I started the car, she moved. So she completely used the sound of the vehicle to mask her own movements. It was absolutely astounding to see how accurately she did it. And sometimes she'd almost look up at me and say, well, can you start the engine now? I'd like to make a closer approach. Almost like she's doing now. So I'm just bringing the other vehicle in, and let's just see if she uses that. Yeah, look, that's exactly what she's doing. Yeah, that's exactly what she's doing. Isn't that amazing? We love to think we don't have a huge effect on what goes on out here, but our very presence affects absolutely everything that we look at out here. All right, let me just stick my nose in here. She's not in a stalking posture at the moment. Oh, is she? She is now. She's definitely seen something. Let me just stop here, Dov. This is very exciting. There is something in there that's not looking this way. No idea what it is. I've seen nothing down there. Look at that. Now she's moving with great care. We're going to have to move again fairly soon. Let's go now. Just in case we miss the action. Just going up now. You see her there, Dov? She spotted something down exactly where the kudu was the last time. Yeah, Critter Freak, she could easily be looking at a scrub hare. I don't know what I doubt it though. Oh, now she's been spotted by a squirrel. See how the tail came up? Gosh, they must be irritated by squirrels to the nth degree. The other vehicle's trying to get out of the sighting now, so we'll move once they've left. If she is hunting, obviously we don't want to ruin anything for her. And if it is an actual hunt going on, I hope it's something small like a duiker, because that means she'll be able to pull it up a tree and go and fetch her son to come and feed with her. If it's bigger than that, it could be stolen. Can you imagine getting so close to the first meal you'd had in 3 days and having it ruined by a little rodent sitting up in a tree? Must be so irritating. I'm not going to move from here for now, everyone. I'll just give her a couple of minutes. Looks a little bit like whatever she spotted is unaware, grazing below her. Many of you complaining about the squirrel in much the same way that no doubt Tundi is in her mind. Now there's another one getting in on the act. Stand completely still now. Sorry, Nick, I didn't get that. It sounds like one of these dolls from the what? Oh, with a pull string. Okay. David is now disrobed in anticipation of a hunt. And now we watch the cat's patience again. Now, it's not to say that she hasn't eaten anything in the last couple of days. She may well have eaten something small like a scrub hare. She definitely has been back to see her son since we last saw her. I think whatever it is has moved slightly. And we're going to lie down. Or are we? No? We're stalking now. No, we're going to lie down. I'm just going to shift slightly forward. Now we'll get a nice view. How's that, David?
Yeah.
There's definitely something in here, but whatever it is, I think has moved slightly. And now it's time for a pleasant snooze in the sun. Still the squirrel will shout. Probably as long as Tundi lies there, the squirrel will shout at her. Sorry, I've just got to get back on the radio now. Go ahead. Now she's very sleepy. And the sun has that effect on a winter's morning when you're just warming up.
Managed to find a group of around 5 zebras or so, and you can have a look at the zebra in the back. You'll see she's heavily pregnant. Watch while she's walking. You can actually see her belly swaying from side to side. And I think that the zebra behind her is her old foal. It looks like a young male. Often you'll find that the dominant male of the group will be following from behind, but in this case today we did see him up in the front. Often the male will follow from behind so he can watch over his females. That male that is following from behind would be too young to be the dominant stallion, and that's why I expect it is probably her old calf. And the fact that she's pregnant now would probably be a very good indicator of that. Right, we're just going to go around the corner and we're going to stop, and then they should be in the open. And there they go. So this road that they're busy following at the moment does head towards some water, and we've just come from a very large open area where I suppose that they slept last night and they've been feeding. And so now they're just taking the easy route back towards the water. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep following them, and we're going to see if they head towards the water.
Right, we're right at the end of this elephant sighting. It's been really great to watch them come down the road, go to the water to have a drink, and now they're moving off to the rocky ridge to maybe feed on some different plants. But we've just got one elephant bull left. You can see the others are all disappearing down the animal pathways and towards the ridge. But it has been man, I can't tell you how wonderful it is just to see elephants and just to see them doing something different. They also had a dust bath, so you can see this fella's got quite a bit of dust on his back and some leaves, as James calls it. What? Nature's confetti. Hey, big boy. He's quite young. I say big boy. I'm just trying to boost his ego slightly. He is, in fact, a small elephant. But he's got a broken tusk. And you can see it's like a sword now, like a knife. It's so sharp on the tip of that tusk. So it's a bit difficult for you to see because of all the branches from the sickle bush tree. But you'll see it there. Doesn't look like he's broken it that recently. Looks like those edges have been filed down. But when they do shatter a tusk like that, it's very, very sharp. And that's such a lovely view. I'm just in two minds of whether we try and catch up to this elephant herd. They are moving quite quickly. and it would be really nice to see them come out onto the rocky ridge. However, it's a huge area that they have to cover. So we might catch them for the end of the show, which would be lovely. A change of scenery. Right, off you go across to Tundi.
Great. Tundi is now wandering through the grasses. She's moved from her sunny spot. She gave us a bit of a yawn. And she's back on the hunt. I think she's still after whatever it was down here. It might be a nyala, might be a duiker. No, there's something else. What's quite interesting to notice here is that if she was on a territorial patrol, she'd stick on game paths, human-made roads, and that sort of thing, but she's now avoiding any of those sorts of things. She's looking down into the riverbed here with very flattened ears. I wonder if there isn't a nyala herd down here that she spotted and is tracking. There's something behind her now. Something moved through the bush, but she hasn't worried about that. It's a herd of buffalo. That's what I can hear. They're not far from us. Can you see the leopard? She's just in the shade there. Still can't see anything down below. And she's much more relaxed now. She's not in a stalking posture. Sometimes I think it's almost more effective for them to hunt in this sort of light, because as soon as she steps into the shade, the contrast between dark and light is such that she's really difficult to pick out of the shadow. She just looks like a stump. I imagine that her prey's eyes are perfectly well designed to discern stump from kitty. Christy, Djuma is not one leopard's territory. They don't understand our human property laws, obviously. And so Djuma just forms part of a territory of a number of leopards. Tundi's territory goes east into Torchwood, the reserve below, possibly a little bit south into a reserve called Little Gowrie, and even Chitwa. The western side of Djuma is used by a leopardess called Shidulu. The northern parts to the east and west actually used by a leopard called Tlalamba. So Djuma isn't a leopard's territory. Interestingly, Djuma is roughly the size of a female leopard's territory in this area. but 3 female leopards call pieces of Djuma their territory, and they extend much further than just Djuma, which is quite nice for us, because it means we don't just have one leopard. Just amazing how this change in the winter temperature, it's almost like it puts a blanket over the earth, which then goes to sleep. No, Tony, I don't have this level of patience when I'm hungry either. I have been known to savage a meal very quickly. In fact, when David and I have at the breakfast table today, it will be very clear that we don't have anything like her patience. I think, and you know, this is a learned thing, the patience. They're not patient when they're youngsters, just like human beings are not patient when they're youngsters. Some of us not when we're adults either. But as soon as they learn the effects of rash decisions on their discomfort, I think they become much more patient. It's not a sudden tornado that's blown up, it's a vehicle from Cheetah Plains coming into the sighting. There she'll just sit until she's spotted something. Or she'll decide to move on, spot something. But I do think there's something down here that she's seen before. Katya, they use all their senses when they're stalking like this, and more than just smell, sight and hearing. They'll use their whiskers to, I suppose, reduce the amount of noise they make. They'll use feel on their toes to make sure that they don't snap sticks or crunch leaves as they walk. They probably don't use taste a great deal. So, you know, of all the senses that we can bring to bear on a situation, they'll use 4 of them, and possibly they have a few we don't know about. So she'll listen for the footfall or the scraping of fur against vegetation. She'll obviously look for whatever that was. She'll try and smell her prey. Pick them up on the wind. I think once she's spotted them, though, the sense of smell becomes fairly secondary. But then when she's stalking, the sense of touch, massively important, because she has to move with complete silence. All right, let's try and catch up with her. Try and stay this side of her, because I think whatever she's stalking is down in the riverbed there, and she's certainly following a line along the banks of the river. And by river, I obviously mean dry stream. I don't mean roaring Amazon, gushing Nile, bubbling orange. Pop out here on our left. You see her, Dov?
Yep.
Sorry, I'm just going to move a little bit more forward so that these guys can have a view. Yeah. No good?
Yeah.
No, she really would be totally invisible to anything down below there. Also, of course, as anyone who's read anything about military history or attacks or defense or anything like that, you know you want to have height as an advantage. You don't want to be lower down than your quarry. So if she can launch an attack from up top here, that'll be far better. She's just coming past the front of the car. Right, move a little bit. Just come on to Central Mvubu. I trust you'll see us from there. She's going to go down here. You got her there. Still trying to see what on earth it is she's going for. I'm hoping she's going to continue to use this height to her advantage and not disappear down into the riverbed, because if she does that, it's amazing how silent it goes. Yeah, there's nothing down here yet. You can see she's not focused on anything. Something moving in the leaves, but it might just be leaves falling as the winter takes hold. Carpeting the ground in things that will make hunting quite difficult. There we go, yeah. That's going to make life very tricky. Let me just move to the edge there. Can we go back? No. Okay. see it, Dolph?
Negative.
No.
So the viewing on the other places has been absolutely incredible. It sounds like you're hunting leopards, and that's just absolutely awesome. Our meerkats are still here being meerkats. They've just moved a little bit further away to the end of their burrows now, and they're doing a lot of burrow maintenance. That is the direction that they actually left yesterday after we left. Veronica, meerkat habituator, watched them, and that's the so I think they're probably going to go foraging in that direction in the next couple of minutes. We're going to keep an eye on them in the meantime, but while we're doing that, I just want to show you a fun thing that we got here. We've been looking at this mother-in-law's tongue a couple of drives back, and I was showing you how you can make. I just made a very, very short stretch of rope, and Veronica's helped us do this, and she did it like super fast. It's incredibly strong. It's incredibly strong. The stuff you don't break this easily, especially if it's wet. And I think that's the key thing. If you're going to be using like natural or plant matter to make rope in that, sometimes people make it with dry bark and it doesn't work so well. But I'm going to show you something funny. I might ask for a hand. I'm not catching anything. I'm not harming anything. I just want to show you a thing here. Chandra, I might actually need you, but if I do, I'm going to. It's going to be a bit longer there. Actually, Chandra, won't you? I don't know. Are you going to be able to do? I need a extra hand here. Sorry. So just bear with us 1 second. I'm just going to need. Come around from my side. You're going to need to give me a hand on this end over here. Can you put that down or not? Okay, you need to take this and you need to hold that on that. You need to hold that on the top over there, and then this is not working. So what? Can you put that down on the side there? Is there any way you can do that? Not. Okay. Chandra is not cooperating here, people. So I just need to break this to everyone. Okay. When you have a cameraman that doesn't cooperate, okay, it's very, very, very difficult to actually do anything. And I think it's just what's happening. I think he's just getting older, and I suspect that it may be his birthday today. He's shaking his head, but I think I have it on good evidence that it is in fact his birthday. So for those of you who want to wish Chandra a happy birthday, and you can even turn the camera around, Chandra, show them your pretty face there. Come on. So Chandra, happy birthday everyone, to Chandra from everyone. And it's been brilliant working with you over the past 5 weeks, and just for the next 5 weeks. No one knows how old he is. Apparently he doesn't age, but he's happy birthday. So don't worry about all of this. This had nothing to do with anything. This was a decoy. But I was trying to get him in front of the camera, but he wasn't falling for it. But anyway, there we go. So the meerkats also say happy birthday to you, Chandra. And yeah, cool. Chuckles. Yeah, these little meerkats are so relaxed, and they're actually becoming more and more relaxed the more time that we spend at this burrow system. When we first started working with this particular group, they were Judy has asked, how close will these meerkats be to a water source? So they don't need to drink. They are water independent species. You get them in super arid areas in the central parts of South Africa called the Great Karoo. It's these massive, massive expanses of incredibly arid. It's like some of the lowest rainfall in South Africa. And I'm talking now.
All right, so we've come here and we've just found some very, very fresh signs of a black rhino. Now have a look here. You can see the scrape marking over here. So what happened is maybe about 2 or 3 hours ago, this black rhino came and he defecated over here. I can see some very, very fresh dung. I did feel up next to it. It's not cold, not hot. And so he defecated here, kicked back a little bit. And then as he started to walk, he scraped his feet along here. And you can even see one of the trees that he just picked up, the red spike thorn, while busy scraping along. And so now this is a bit of a visual marking of his territory. But I've just found something very interesting. Have a look over here. Marcel, I'm not sure, can you see it from there? This is a millipede, everyone. So millipede, which would mean thousands of legs, which in fact they don't really have. A fully grown adult millipede will only have up to 200 legs. And when they're born, they'll be born with about 2 or 3 sets of legs. They're absolutely incredible creatures. And so he's come over here, or he or she, I don't know who it is, has come over here to look for some rotting plant matter. Now you'll see how it's rolled up. I think when I walked through here, it saw me and it got a little bit nervous and it rolled up into a ball. And that's one of the defense mechanisms that they have. They've got very soft bellies. And so by rolling up into the ball, they can protect their legs and their bellies from any bird that is trying to eat them. I've actually seen the African wild dog eat millipedes before, which is quite crazy. And the female will also roll up into a ball like that when the male wants to mate with her. And she'll roll up into the ball, and he takes his tiny little legs and he caresses her, almost gives her a millipede massage. And if she is interested, then she'll open up and he will transfer a sack of semen to her, and then she will pull that in with her legs, which is incredible. Now these creatures are believed, so the gizmo, no, they do not bite. If it was a centipede, which is a little bit flatter and a little bit wider than this, they do bite, but these millipedes don't. And so like I was saying, is that scientists believe that this is the oldest land creature that walked the earth. Millions and millions of years ago, these were the first creatures to walk the land. And they have found some fossils to be over 6 feet long and 1 foot wide, which is absolutely massive. Now, it looks like a worm, and it isn't a worm. It is an arthropod, and so it is an exoskeleton invertebra, which is quite interesting. Although it looks like a worm, it isn't. There are some millipedes, to defend themselves or to ward off any threat, they'll roll onto their back and sort of wiggle like a snake, hoping to scare off whatever's trying to eat them. But I wonder where this millipede's busy moving to. When they do nest, if this was a female, and let's say she had been mated with, when she nests, she will dig into the ground and she will lay her eggs underneath the soil. In South Africa, we have a very interesting name for these, which comes from the local tribes in these areas. It's called a shongololo, which is one of my favorite words of all time. A shongololo. Growing up, I couldn't stop saying it. But I wonder if this millipede hasn't come here because it's picked up the scent of this black rhino dung, and you could see lots of plant matter over here, or branches that this black rhino has been feeding on. But that's pretty cool. So I think we're going to carry on. There's just a little bit of time left, and we're going to see what we can find up ahead.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
So I'm amazed. One of our colleagues has just been looking at a shongololo, apparently. Now, shongololo are these millipedes that, like the dead one with the 250 legs that we found. But just shows you that incredible difference between those areas and here. Now, we are right deep in the heart of winter. There's not a lot of insect life around. There's not a lot of, or any kind of like arthropods around and that. So even to find things like millipedes is, you know, in this area environment now alive is pretty amazing. Yeah, so I think I managed to answer that question just before we went offline there, and I do apologize, we had a little glitch in the comms there. But yeah, meerkats are water-independent species, so they don't need to drink. They're getting all of their water requirements from the prey that they're eating. But I just wanted to show you something quite interesting here. So this is deep sand that we're on. Well, we're assuming it's deep sand. These Kalahari sands can go down in some areas up to 300 feet, just over 300. That's over 100 meters of deep sand. But then where they've been excavating around the burrows, you're getting all these stone fragments popping out. And there's another one back over there. There's a couple scattered around here. So these particular fragments, they're not tools or anything, or not to my eye. They don't appear to be tools of any sort. But why I find this particularly interesting is that, well, these burrows are not going down very deep. They must be going down maybe a meter, probably at the most, and in narrow tunnels. And yet, they are unearthing stone fragments. So my question is this: what lies below where we are sitting here? You know, I think I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to guess that there's some kind of rocky outcrop below where we're sitting. And in many regards, it would actually make sense to me, you know, our proximity to the mountains over here, and then also we are sitting on this massive gradual bulge of sand rather than a dune. And that, to my mind, seeing things like this, looking at the lay of the land, how the sand is piled up in a really kind of like unusual way over a big area, I would guess that we are actually sitting on top of a small hill, like a rocky outcrop over here, that over millions of years the sand has just blown up over and around it. And these fragments are just an indication of what lies below us over here. So there's actually a whole lot more pieces here I see as well. So I think there's something really interesting going on just under the surface over here. And now the thing to me would be to start looking for actual stone flakes, any sign of human occupation. And if those of you were with us when we were following the Xhosa meerkats initially, there we actually found stone flakes, proper stone flakes. So yeah, I think there's some, next time our archaeology researchers are on site, which will hopefully be in the next couple of months, I'll actually bring them out into these areas, and we'll just start doing a ground survey. In other words, not doing any digging. There's no disturbance in animal burrows or anything, but it's literally, we just walk with the students over these landscapes and we start documenting what we're finding. So stone flakes, pottery, grinding stones, anything like that. And I think that we're going to start turning up some really, really interesting stuff in this area. But it just shows, it's the small clues that can lead to something bigger. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to see the actual thing that you're looking for, but all these little signs, clues, you know, that point to something, to a larger picture. It's all about the bigger picture, Acha. You know, everything's linked. A friend of mine actually sent me a really interesting question the other day, saying, well, talking about the Sengis and looking at meerkats, you know, but now I'm referring to Sengis in particular. They were saying, well, if you look at the four-toed elephant shrew we were talking about from the Pinda areas, and those are threatened or endangered, depending which species you're looking at. And then our Sengis, the bushveld elephant, the rocky elephant, the round-eared, they're not, but they are still linked. Alan Moore has asked, what do meerkats think of humans? I don't have an answer for you. I would like to think that they don't mind humans, but yeah, I think if they knew what humanity was capable of, I think they may look at us in a slightly different light. Sometimes better, sometimes worse. But yeah, that's not for me to make that decision on what these meerkats think of people, if in fact they do think of people. Yeah, because, you know, then that becomes like a whole philosophical question. You know, what do they think of a warthog? You know, do they recognize warthogs as just an animate object in the environment, or do they recognize pigs as being good or bad? You know, but I think they certainly see us humans as another animal in the environment that they're just used to, that they're relaxed with. They don't see us as food, luckily, and they don't see us as a source of food, and that, I think, is very, very important. Animals shouldn't be seeing people as food. Like, if we get you in the mornings, yeah, here they come, we're going to get some food now. That is probably the fastest way to an animal's demise, when it starts seeing people as a source of food. So we're always incredibly careful when we approach these animals, that we do it sensitively. There's no negative interaction with them. There's no positive interaction with them. We just need to be here observing them, doing what they would be doing, even if we weren't here, like they are now.
We are also doing what we're doing. Everyone's doing what they're doing. I'm not sure you can do anything other than what you're doing. Now, we've managed to lose Tundi, I'm afraid, but there is a squirrel doing what the squirrel was doing earlier. So I think she's in this area. I think it's down here. Let me carry on down here. Very irritated squirrels down here. Let's just quickly pop our heads. We've come all the way around. We drove through it, up and down. Came up with nothing. Now this is interestingly where she kept her son for a while, her old den site. She's here. There's a squirrel and a francolin going. She'll just be ghosting through the thickets here. Ooh, I think we must be close. Let's just go and park up on this little hill and see if that gives us enough of a vantage. Now, believe it or not, you would see her because you'd just see the movement. She's definitely in here somewhere. Oh, how very frustrating. Nothing, Dov?
No.
Let's keep going a little bit. Tristan, there's squirrels going crazy around where she had her den, also where Purple Eye had her den. She's used a number of places around this area to stash her cubs over the years. Squirrel's still going mad back there. Copy that.
We are trying to follow a butterfly for you. You can, yes, we did it. Well done, Beaks. I think this is an African monarch. Of course, the monarchs are very, very similar to the diadems, or the female diadems, sorry. But when the wings slightly slant downwards, it's a monarch. Yes, it's a monarch. On a devil's thorn. A pink devil's thorn, that's what flower that is. The last remainders of the butterflies. The only real sort of species of butterfly that I'm seeing at the moment, this far into winter, is the monarchs, the guinea fowl, and the broad-bordered yellows. A few African vagrants, but very, very few, and that's it. A few spotted jokers, actually, but no more. Considering the diverse range we had throughout the summer, I think most of them have came to the end of their life cycle. Trying to get the last sort of delicious remainder bits of nectars from the plants and flowers around. This one's very, very busy, BK. But we do have impala. Now, I've just received a message from one of you. Thank you so much. I was confused by our little duiker. And I tried to have a look through my binos, but I didn't quite make it because it appeared to almost look like something was wrong with the horns. Did you notice that, BK? It almost looked like it had a broken horn or 3 horns. I know that sounds really bizarre, and one of you have actually just messaged me to say you think it had 3 horns. So if any of you have fantastic screenshots, do send them to us, #WildEarth, and see if we can figure out what on earth was up with this little duiker. It did look bizarre. I see what it is you're referring to. Let's see if we can find some other screenshots. Now, the rutting season's really, really starting to die down. I see some males clinging on to their temporary harems and trying to be dominant and snorting away. But I really do think it's coming to an end now. I think the horn in Miss Duiker was just broken.
So these little meerkats are starting to move out. The little dominant alpha, the female, she's right at the furthest one there. So it seems to be that they're heading out in the same direction as they did yesterday to forage. And normally that's an indication that they were getting good food in that area, because if they weren't, they obviously wouldn't go down there. I'm just going to walk a little bit further around the front of them. They're super, super, super relaxed now. There's still one member of this group that is a little bit skittish, but over the coming weeks we're going to spend more and more time with them as those pups come out, and I think it's going to be an exceptional journey. I have no doubt in my mind about that. I think it's going to be worth every single second that we spend. And it's just good that we've had the patience, and not we, Jandra and I will sit anywhere for as long as we need, but I'm so glad that all of you on this journey with us have had the patience to spend this time with us and allow us to actually, enjoy spending, just sitting down and watching animals. And I think, we're going to be in for some awesome times in the not too distant future. Right, well, we're going to spend a little bit more time here. Again, as always, it's been wonderful being able to have you with us. Please have an amazing day. Go out, go back home, wherever you are. Go look at nature, spend time in it, learn about it, and we will see you again this afternoon. Stay safe and have fun.